Joining me here on the Rich Eisen Show, UCLA football coach Jim Mora. Jim, I'd love to start our conversation with the latest head coach who's stepping down due to health reasons, and just your thoughts on hearing Gary Pinkel being all broken up and stepping down at Mizzou. Jim.
Well, I was one of the fortunate ones that got to play for Gary Pinkel when he was coaching at the University of Washington. So he coached with my dad, and then I was able to coach him. So I've known him since I was a young kid, and I've always had a tremendous amount of respect for him and just liked him. And I know that he's impacted a lot of lives there. And as a college football coach, we're judged from the outside on our wins and losses, and rightfully so. But I think that one of the things that I've learned, and I think one of the things that a guy like Gary teaches you, is that we want to be able to judge ourselves on the impact that we can have on these young men who some may go on and play at the next level, but many won't. Most won't. Most will, enter the workforce and go on and be husbands and fathers. And so the important thing is that we try to show them the right way. And I think Gary's a shining example of that.
And the issues that Gary Pinkel had on his plate at Missouri, certainly in his last week there with what was going on campus and a group of his players saying that they weren't going to practice or play based on a stance that they were taking. And also Michael Sam was an openly gay player in his locker room. Nobody knew it at the time. I mean, the things that he had at Missouri is truly remarkable, and I think is a bastion for people in your profession, Jim, the way he handled everything.
Yeah, he was dealing with a lot of things, and, I think there's a lot of things that all of us at this level deal with that oftentimes people don't know about, that don't become public, whether it's one individual or a group of individuals or, these kids at this age are still in such a developmental part of their lives. And it's incumbent on us to help them develop into the young men or into the men that their parents dreamed that they'd be, and that their potential is going to allow them to be. And you have to deal with some things, and Gary was great at it. And, I think the way that he approached the situation last week with the players that were threatening a boycott, and that he sided with them and backed them without ever, in my opinion, taken aim at the administration of Missouri, was pretty remarkable. He played it exactly right, and when I say play it exactly right, I don't think that does him service. I think he handled it exactly right. I don't think he played anything. I just think he was true to himself and did the right thing.
How socially conscious are your players at UCLA, Jim?
Well, I think they're very socially conscious. I think, I think most players are at this point in time because of social media and their access to information. They're flooded with information at all times. They're getting hit at all angles with information. They're always on their phones. They're always checking Twitter. They're always checking Facebook. They're always reading the news. And so they're very aware of what's going on out in the world. And I think they're affected by it, So we haven't had anything like that here. We've had our own issues. You just go back a couple of years ago with Nick Pasquale, dying. I mean, there's just things that happen. I mean, it's life, and you hope that you can teach them how to deal with it the best way. And along the way, you learn remarkable lessons from these players. I've always felt like I have so much to learn from them that it's amazing.
How in the world do you keep track of it all, Jim? Because as a professional football coach, I mean, you're in film sessions, and a lot of these guys, then they go home. Then their husbands, their fathers, or their sons, or doing whatnot. Let's put it that way. I mean, how do you keep
there's
track?
only 53 of them. I've got 120 players on our team.
Right.
And so it's a lot to keep track of. And you've got a great staff, and you've got support. You've got your academic support. You've got your leadership councils. I mean, you've got a lot of people on campus that are helping you, but it's not easy. And you're dealing with a lot of issues. And a lot of your time is spent on things other than football.
Jim Mora joining me here from the campus of Westwood and UCLA head coach on the Rich Eisen Show. Let's talk some football. A lot of talk about the Pac-12 schedule this week, Jim, with Stanford getting knocked off by Oregon. Everybody's got 2 losses, with Utah losing as well. And now suddenly the conference doesn't really have anybody that can make a run into the Final Four here. What is your stance on the Pac-12 schedule?
It's difficult, and it's a very, very competitive conference. I've said it all along. I mean, I knew it was going to be like this. I figured it was going to be something that came down to the last week, and there was going to be some teams that were going to be dealing with losses. I didn't see anyone running the table. It's just too competitive. I still think we suffer a lack of respect because we play many of our games so late at night that people on the East Coast don't get to see the quality of football. And I think it's unfortunate from a national perspective, but it's an extremely competitive conference, and I love playing in it.
Well, what about the 9-game schedule? You have a 9-game conference schedule that other conferences play 8, and with that extra 9th game, you're sort of cannibalizing yourself to have a shot at lifting that glass egg when it's all said and done.
Yeah, and I think that's something that will be looked at. And I can't see the Pac-12 going to 8 games, but I can see if they do make the Power 5 conferences a little bit more independent, that everybody needs to be playing by the same set of rules as much as possible. I mean, there's never going to be complete consistency because you're dealing with so many teams. It's not like the NFL where there's only 32 teams and it's governed by, the same body of rules. But I think if we're going to play 9 games, then the other conferences that are also competing for a chance to put a team in the national championship game or into the playoff system should have to play 9 games as well, or we should play 8. And I'm sure that moving forward, that'll be something that's looked at very closely.
You have the proverbial control of your own destiny to win your the South Division in the Pac-12 and a shot at the Rose Bowl if you win against Utah and against your crosstown rival. Coach, is that what you're talking to your team about right now?
Well, I mean, we know that. What we're talking about is preparing the best we can for Utah and trying to go out there and get a win so that we can keep that dream alive. But, rather than focus on the big picture, we're just focusing on Utah and trying to play the best we can. We had a tough loss on Saturday. We kind of the end of the game was just an emotional roller coaster. We went down and we scored with a minute left, and then they went down and scored with three seconds left to beat us. And so, you got to get through that, which I thought today they came out and we had practice this morning and they did a great job of working through that. But, I don't want to look too far ahead. I mean, we feel like we've been given a second chance, and so we want to capitalize on it. With Utah losing, that obviously kept us alive, and so we have to capitalize on it by going out and playing a great game Saturday night and trying to get a win.
I'd love to ask you about Rob Ryan in New Orleans, where a defensive coordinator loses his gig in the middle of the season. You're a defensive coordinator by trade as well as a head coach. So what difference can a defensive coordinator make with personnel? How does that work?
Well, Jim? Dennis Allen's been there, so he's very familiar with the personnel. And I think if you read some of some of Sean Payton's, not Gary Payton, the glove.
Yes,
remember the glove?
I do remember the glove. Yeah.
Maybe New Orleans would like the glove. He could play some D.
Yes.
But if you read some of Sean Payton's comments, it was, I think he has great respect for Rob Ryan, but he saw some things in terms of substitution, getting guys lined up, and being really able to function as a defense that I think led to the change. And I think what you'll see with Dennis is he'll come in, he'll use the same personnel, and they'll probably use very much the same scheme, but he'll scale things back and probably be a little bit more exacting in the details of the defense. And that's really what you have to do. Rob Ryan is so intelligent and so creative, and he's done some amazing things in terms of his pressures. And sometimes as coaches, we can be our own worst enemy when we try to do too much, and we want to be the guru and the guy that created this or created that or revised this or revamped that. And sometimes the best thing you can do as a coach is just put your players in position to utilize their athletic ability and their speed and their tenaciousness and get out of our own way at times. And so I think Dennis will do a tremendous job, and Rob will land on his feet. He's a great coach, very well respected, and Sean did what he had to do. So that's kind of the world right now of pro football. Last
one for you, Coach. Your dad's first overall 98 draft choice is a topic of conversation because it may just be his endgame right now with a foot injury, and we saw the way he looked this past week, and he's going to be sitting this week, and who knows for how long while he rests up, or if Brock Osweiler can perform well. How do you think this is playing out with Gary Kubiak right now, just from afar?
I don't think it's easy on Gary because I think Gary's very close to Peyton, and he knows he's dealing with a legend, and there's no doubt that he's getting closer to the end. But I don't think I'm not going to assume that he's at the end. I know what kind of competitor Peyton is. I think he's beat up, and I think he needs to heal a little bit. And when he heals, we'll probably see signs of greatness again from this guy. But every career at some point comes to an end. No matter how great a career it is, it comes to an end. And what I hope that we can all do is celebrate the greatness of Peyton Manning and not focus in on the performance that he had Sunday when he was hurt, or, if he doesn't come back and regain that great form that he's always had. I hope we can just all remember what an amazing performer he was and what an amazing ambassador he's been for the game of football and pro football in general, because he has always done it right. He's always said the right things, acted the right way, performed the right way, and represented it himself in the NFL in the highest manner.
Yeah, it's interesting how we've reached this point with him. Do you remember when your dad drafted him?
Heck, Rich, I used to go watch his high school games. When I was coaching the Saints and he was playing high school, we'd go every Friday night and go watch him play. So I've been watching Peyton since he was a junior in high school, and he used to come out and work out with us his senior year, at the Saints. So I've known Peyton a long time, competed against him many, many times, and I just think he's what it's all about. Guys like him and guys like Tom Brady and Drew Brees. I mean, we're seeing kind of the twilight of these guys' career, and they're all still doing it at a high level, although I think with Peyton's injuries, it's really affecting him. But listen, I'd be the last. I wouldn't write Peyton off. I guarantee you that. Not knowing him the way I know him and the competitor that we all know, I wouldn't write him off yet.
Jim, you're the best. Thanks for calling in.
All right, Rich. Take care.
We'll chat soon. Chat next week. Jim Mora, UCLA.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern. On Audience.